Welcome back to Asthenia TCG. My name's Braden. We're here with our I can't believe it, second episode. I'm really blown away with all the support I've been receiving. I thought I'd come back and do it again. We're here with a very, very special guest today with some pretty interesting segments lined up. I'm here with none other than Elliot Charters. Introduce yourself to the audience, mate.
Hey everyone. Thanks for the introduction. My name's Elliot. I've been playing One Piece at a pretty high level for the last, 6 or 7 months. Before that, I was playing World of Warcraft, League of Legends. I was a professional League of Legends player, and yeah, just been loving the game and loving, getting into the whole TCG space. And it's been a great start so far.
It's really, really great to hear. High level, I think, is really kind of underselling yourself there, Elliot. Give us rattle off a couple of your lists, just a couple of your accomplishments at the top of your head.
Sure. So I believe I've got 5 serials so far. We won the Melbourne 3v3 event. In New Zealand, came second. Was in the finals for that regional. I was in the finals for another one of the online tournaments, and then just on the top tables for a couple of other ones, a couple of third places, fourth places, stuff like that, and just been having a good time doing that, and had a blast the whole time.
An all-round Oceania raid boss, if you will. Elliot is the man to beat. He's got the accolades to back it up. And now we're going to be talking about an event that happened in Brisbane over the weekend. I wasn't able to attend, but Elliot, tell me a little bit about the event.
Yeah, absolutely. So the event had, I believe, 42 players off memory, and a lot of really strong players around the Brisbane region. Multiple serial players and just strong people that honestly could do super well in any Oceania wide event. I reckon at least 20 people are at a really high level caliber, and a pretty understandable metric of the meta decks. I think it was a pretty decent spread. I would say most of the matchups were just mainly yellow and Saka and a couple of small counter matchups here and there. But overall, it was a fantastic event. Everyone that I versed was super strong, really good preparation, and really good experience overall for me.
No, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to rattle off a couple of the, I guess, metrics going into this one. So what we had now this count may be off a little bit. 16 Sakazuki decks, 7 Enel, 6 Katakuri, 3 Purple Luffy, 2 Red Purple Law, 3 Whitebeard, 1 Yellow Black Big Mum, 1 Nami, 1 Bello Betty, and 1 Rebecca. My recording might have been a little bit off there. I've just heard a knock at the door. I'm going to let you take away, I guess, the first deck list that I want to have a look at here, and that is Caleb on Red Purple Law making top 8. Elliot, what do you think?
Absolutely. So Caleb is a super strong player who plays at the Sunnybank JoJo store. Really strong. He's got a lot of top finishes playing Red Green Law. So really happy to see him in his groove on the Red Purple Law here. I think this is kind of like a new style build, more or less designed to counter the Sakazuki deck. What we're seeing here as the main card that's kind of looking towards doing this is the 4-cost Ein. And that essentially gives us the ability to take away the second from the Sakazuki. And on top of that, we've also got 4 of the Blocker Law, which will just catch them with more than 7 cards in hand. I'm sure everyone loves when the Law player asks them how many cards they have in their hand. And also the 3 Fire Fist. This is pretty common to dismantle the Sakazuki deck because it's able to remove one body whilst removing the Rebecca at the same time. So this card kind of gets rid of the whole I would say RHL combo. I just call this is the Rebecca Hinaluchi combo, and just essentially allows them to take back the board in those mid-late game situations. I am loving the extra one-offs that he has. Rad Beam is a godsend versus aggro matchups. The Douglas Bullet is just an insane card if it's able to stick and get the final blow versus decks with a lot of pesky blockers. And the one of Jet Pistol as sometimes the trigger can just take people really catch people off guard. And the Gamma Knife, which is honestly just an excellent card whenever you're versing any deck with a lot of 8k bodies. It's basically the only way that the deck can answer things like Big Mom, 8-cost Katakuri, Borsalino, 7-cost Kid, just to name a few.
No, absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned, like, there's certainly a lot of tech in there to deal with the Sakazuki matchup. I know that Red Purple Law can often, it can high roll a little bit depending on how it stacks with the Sachi Penguin, things like that, while maintaining a constant board presence and hoping that the Anel player doesn't see multiple pieces of removal in the form of, say, Houndblaze or Rob Lucci. I'm starting to think about how it would go into some other big bosses in the format, notably probably Kata, Anel, and Purple Luffy here. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just looking at this list without seeing Caleb play it. Obviously making top 8. I believe he finished 5 rounds, if I remember correctly, and he went 4-1 after Swiss. His only loss was to Whitebeard. He ended up beating Sakazuki round 1, followed by Anel. Whitebeard was round 3, the loss, and then Katakuri, and then Sakazuki again. I think it's definitely aimed more mid-range to beat not just Sakazuki but also Anel, and we can certainly see that here. I think the Ace and the Douglas Bullet can really help in the Sakazuki matchup in terms of cleaning things up, as well as obviously the Purple Law, as you mentioned. But I really like this kind of mid-range output that it can put kind of pressure on Anel. The bodies are a lot harder to remove and can really compete with their top end as well. Douglas Bullet tapping down the Sanjis, anything like that. I guess my main concern would be how it would fare into Katakuri. Now, obviously, he's won a matchup here. I still think it'd be a little bit high rolly, but I reckon Katakuri would probably be the only challenge he'd face, Elliot. But maybe NL. Purple Luffy, look, without testing, it's always hard for me to comment. But I think they could just go wide enough and keep enough pressure to keep Purple Luffy's board under control and kind of sneak out a win there.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my experience, I feel just based off his wins and losses, I've played a fair bit of this deck myself, and I am struggling a little bit when it comes to when I see a 6k leader. Pretty much like more than 50% of your deck seems to just be at that 5k threshold, and it goes really well at just going wide. It doesn't have a lot of like spare Don or any way to kind of bring things up to those 6k thresholds whilst also efficiently building your board. However, when you're versing things the Katakuri and the NL, the main issue seems to be when they get a pretty good starve on the Red Purple Law. If they're aiming to drag out the game, starve you of your resources, things like the Gadatsu and the 9-cost Yamato are super good into the matchup. However, I had discussions with people on the day, and Caleb played extremely well around these decks. He was doing really well at trying to not rush the matchups and build the board into a state that was kind of irremovable by the yellow decks, and play around the starve with cards kind of like the 5-cost Queen, just trying to keep getting the draw going. And overall, I think it is a bit of a feast or famine deck. I think that it can go decent into the Sakazuki matchup, as I said. However, yellow and purple matchups and the 6k leaders can be a little bit of a struggle.
No, absolutely. 100% agree with you there. And he's pulled out some really big scalps along the way in this competition. Unfortunately, he did go down to Anel in top cut. Anel, we've seen it against Zoro and any kind of aggressive deck. They can just hold their own, rebuild their life, and remove your board quite easily, and then stabilize. We'll move on to the next list. So we've now got Steven's Sakazuki list, which I believe is very similar to yours, Elliot.
Absolutely. Yep. So Stephen is a well-known bully around the Brisbane region. Actually, the guy who got me to start playing the game. We were playing Yu-Gi-Oh before that, and he's one of my best friends and my 3v3 teammate. Excellent player, has multiple serials himself, and yeah, we've had a couple of spots while we've been playing One Piece where we feel like there is a pretty solid like best deck in the format. Before we believed it was Zoro in OP3 when it got the support with cards like 5 cost Marco, 1 cost Buggy. Now we're under the impression that if the Sakazuki player plays well, they generally have the most control over the game compared to like any other deck. We don't like the lack of control that a deck, like Katakuri or NL can feel like it has. Sometimes you live and die by the triggers. Um, and as per his list, yeah, we are running some pretty similar lists. We've agreed that running a lot of these cards, such as Kino and the four Salino, add a lot of the consistency to the deck. The main part that we're kind of testing right now is how many Sabos are going to be good. It's a lifesaver in the yellow matchup, and we're just trying to find a way to kind of fit two or three in. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it at one, just because it is an unsearchable card. However, at the end of the day, it is still a 1k counter, which is very, very nice to have in the deck. Just having the first card that you'll throw out in a couple of matchups just be that 1k counter Sabo.
No, absolutely. And any like situational card against a certain matchup, sometimes it can be hard to put it in a deck. But if it has that 1k counter, you can always fall back and say, well, at worst, I'm just going to discard it. Uh, I guess, like, looking at this, you're definitely stacking more on the Borsalino. I can completely agree with that. Both the 4 and the 7 costs. The big one for me is going down from 4 to 2 Ice Ages. So what was your Stephen and your thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually had some good success with Ice Age pretty much at every level. I feel like 3 or 4 seems a little bit too much for my play style. I was actually finding decent luck even just running 0 and having more cards like the Sabo, like the 10 cost Kaido, like extra 2k counters and such. I feel when you are running this card at 2, it isn't a card that you can rely on seeing every game when you need it. It is extremely good when versing Katakuri, NL, and Purple Luffy. Sometimes they just ramp out too quickly, and the only way to kind of seize the board back when you're on low Don is just to do a quick Ice Age, Great Eruption, Rob Lucci, etc. We were also finding that in our early testing, the mirror was actually quite tough, especially when versing each other. Steven's a really good player, and we were finding it was a little bit not the best card, honestly, in the mirror. And we found it being the first thing that we would always cycle in the mirror. So for us, anywhere between 0 to 2 honestly feels quite good.
And I guess really that does depend on the meta as well. I know around me, like, I'm looking at 2 here, and if I was to play Sakazuki, I'd just dread facing any Katakuri matchup and Purple Luffy to a smaller extent, particularly with, Kaido's as being the number one thing you have to remove to really have a chance because it sets them back that 5 Don. And just 10 cost Big Mum. I mean, and at the end of the day, as you've mentioned, sorry, yellow just lives and dies by the triggers, and sometimes even playing it perfectly, dealing with multiple 7 costs, even the Katakuri 8 cost and the 10 cost Big Mum. Sometimes this isn't good enough, even compared to a well timed beige in life or something like that. But yeah, look, pretty much a stock standard list here from Steven. I believe he went down to Floyd on Katakuri in Top Cut. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that is the case. I think he was having just a little bit of issues with the triggers. He was doing very well in the Swiss. He was 4 when he went down to Austin, kind of for that first place in the Swiss rounds. I'm not sure how serious both of those guys were with it, but I think they were feeling pretty good that they were already in top cut, so they were just laughing, having fun. They both know each other from locals, and they're good friends on that front. And yeah, that the main thing that ends up happening with the category matchup is it is quite hard if they hit their stride. A mix of a good curve and some good triggers can set up some really tough roadblocks, as well as the introduction of that 200 million Voltamaru. Most of the kata and Enel lists kind of run 2 or 3. And I would say in preparation for the Sakazuki meta, a lot of people have opted to go for that category. Just, it is probably one of the matchups with the highest win rate into the Sakazuki. So if any of us are playing a best of 3 versus a category, especially if we lose the dice roll, it is honestly never going to be an easy match. And especially when going for game, we're always just tiptoeing around if they're going to trigger a cracker, a beige, a thunderbolt. There's a lot of things that can kill kind of on that last turn.
Absolutely, and that's, I mean, you can't even really, well, you can play around it to a small degree, but a lot of the time with the pressure they put on, it's basically if you have it, you have it, isn't it?
100%, 100%.
Alrighty, well we've got one more deck list to have a look at from our top cut, and that is Maverick's list. So we've got Enel here. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mav is a really good player. He's been opting to play NL in this set. Had a bunch of good games with him in the ranked queues that have come out recently. And yeah, he pilots this deck really well. As we can see here, it is quite a aggressive Sky Island build, opting to run 4 of the Rush NL as well as 3 of the 200 million Voltamaru. He's also got in the Holly and Ohm, essentially just going for that like high roll, going second build into Sakazuki, just flood the board to a point that is quite annoying to remove on that 5th turn. And then where a lot of the builds will end up just going for the 7 which generally just ends up giving the NL player a life. He goes for the Russian L just as a, hey, you have to remove this twice, otherwise I'm going to follow it up with a Yamato, and then you'll be behind on the board for the rest of the game.
Oh, sorry, I was having some issues on mic. There we go. Got it working again.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
Look, pretty stock standard. We're seeing a lot of I know a lot of the newer NL lists trimming from 12 2K down to 10, so we can see that Coinus, or Conus, however you pronounce it, down to 2 to make 10 2Ks there. Thunderbolt down to 2, Amaru at 3. I feel Amaru is just so much more vital in the NL deck when trying to close it out against Sakazuki. But yeah, like you said, a 7-cost Big Mum, I found in my testing as well that a lot of the time, because you can't play as slow typically as Katakuri can, you can't build up a big as board as them, the decision can actually hurt you a little bit more, depending obviously on what they pick. And as you said, a lot of the time it will just be another life. So again, well done to Maverick, piloting it extremely well, going, I believe, 4-1. Yeah, 4-1 in Swiss. Unfortunately, going down to Joe's list, which we'll look at in a moment. But sometimes it's a case of just getting paired up against a rough matchup. And as you've said earlier, Maverick, a top-tier player. But unfortunately, in top 8, getting paired up against Purple Luffy, that's why NL didn't see a lot of play in those kind of Eastern metas straight away, because everyone was on the Purple Luffy bandwagon. And unfortunately, getting paired up against it in top cut, sometimes NL just has too much trouble trying to deal with their aggressively ramped out threats.
Yeah, absolutely. And they coined the first format in the Eastern format, BCP. It was very Luffy dominated. It had a little bit more of a triangle format going on compared to what we can see here. A lot of people were still on the Red Green Law, the Zora. Honestly, quite a couple of people on the Bello Betty deck as well. And what it ended up being was that these super aggressive decks that could out tempo the purple Luffy could take that win. However, things like Zoro and Bello Betty would get extremely stuck when versing the NL deck. So it was kind of like everything had a bad matchup. And you just had to pray that you could dodge these. Well, at least this was the idea of the metagame before the newer Sakazuki list came out and different
Absolutely.
ideas for how they would be played came about.
For sure, for sure. And we may even still see it shift again before Nationals. You know, who knows what people are cooking, what secret tech we might see. We'll take this a chance to go on to the next list. We are looking at Declan's Katakuri list now. Again, pretty stock standard for a Katakuri list. We've got your 4 Big Mums, your 4 Katakuri 8 cost, 3 Lin Lins. We're seeing a few more lists, not only run the Sanji now, but also the Brule. We've got 3 copies of Thunderbolt, 3 copies of 200 million volts. 6 events seem to be the sweet spot as well. You typically don't see L4 in this list because once you tap out for the 10 cost, you can't leave that Don up. Whereas the NL list typically curves out at 9 at the top end, so you do have that 1 Don available to you. Battling through, making it to top 4, but not quite able to make it to the big dance there. From probably, I'd say, a few days after release, this has been my kind of champion hero for the set, the Sleeper. Yes, as you've mentioned earlier, it can live and die by the triggers, Elliot, but Katakuri just has such a good time, I personally think, into 2 of the big main bullies of this format, Enel and Sakazuki when piloted correctly. Purple Luffy can be difficult, especially if they land the turn 4 Kaido, but otherwise I think Katakuri is still super solid. Your thoughts?
Absolutely, and yeah, as you were saying before, you have been playing the category yourself. If anyone is familiar with Braden, he has been farming a lot of the winner cards at Northside with this category. I think he's gone 4-0 pretty much every single time with the deck and has piloted it
Oh, not
super
quite.
well. Well, at least from the times that I was there. And yeah, one of the cool things that we can see with Declan's list, I actually had the honor of playing with him in the Swiss. Very strong player and very sensible and like calm, collected, very methodical. What I can see here is that he is running the 5-cost Gidatsu. Now, myself being someone who is quite familiar with the matchup from the Sakazuki's point of view, I normally opt to play the 4-cost Kuzan on my 4-don turn. However, I had to respect his Gidatsu and put down the 4-cost Borsalino instead, just to try to play around with that that 4-life turn. However, it is a lot better for him to, kind of starve me of that 1 attack because once that 4-cost Kuzan is down, there are not too many ways to efficiently remove it unless I am over the 3-life threshold. In general, NL feels a lot better about thunderbolting that card. Trashing a life for NL is not really too big of a fuss, but if Katakuri is doing it, the Saka player can kind of switch up the tempo and go more aggressive, just, knowing that they're down a life and probably a couple of cards in hand and such. Overall, though, pretty stock standard list. We are seeing the 3 Thunderbolt and the 3 200 million volt Amaru. Personally, I think this ratio is super strong in the Sakazuki meta, as we really have to think, is the Katakuri player going for another turn with the 10 cost? Or are they just going to commit with 1 or 2 200 million volt Amaru and try to close out the game as a surprise?
100%. You have to respect both options. Are they going to play more defensive, conservative, clear my board, or are they just going to be able to rest my blockers? And that's why I think, like you mentioned earlier with the Saka list, how many Sabos is the right number. And honestly, I'm on the bandwagon now when I do play Sakazuki on Sim or in person. I'm liking 2 to 3 copies of that Sabo just for 200 million, just to respect the 200 million volts Armaru, Thunderbolt. If you play the Sabo that turn, can't KO it. It just gives that Saka player that little bit more kind of, I guess, reassurance in their defense. We'll keep it moving along. So that covers our one of the lists that we were able to retrieve there. We're now going to move on to top two, and coming in second, we had Joe Gretsch's Purple Luffy list, and wow, you've spoken to him a lot more about this. Impel down, give us the scoop, mate. Give us the scoop, Elliot.
Awesome. So yeah, Joe, otherwise known as Alaska Joe, is definitely one of the strongest players in the Greater Brisbane region. I think he's made top 32 with King in OP4 not too long ago, which is probably what he's most known for worldwide. On top of that, he's also got a top 8 with Whitebeard in the 4.5 set. He just an insane player. He kind of flicked a switch where he wanted to start being super competitive, and yeah, he's had some brilliant results recently. This is the second place for this event, and he won another big tournament in Brisbane for a winner box coming first. So yeah, his two big tournaments coming second and first. Honestly, he's in amazing form on the Purple Luffy. As we can see here with his build, he really has identified that Magellan is the win con into a lot of these decks, and I'm sure everyone knows the pain of when you get slapped in the face by one or two Magellans. You have the perfect turn next turn going into, let's say you want to be dropping a Katakuri or a 7-cost Big Mom, you're on 6 Don, and then next turn, yep, double Magellan, you're down to 6 Don again. You're very sad, and you just end up awkwardly swinging with the rest of your characters. So the Hanya Bolt allows him to have this avenue opened up. Another thing that's super strong about it is Mancheri is normally super good in the matchup, as they always normally have to commit like a 5 or a 6K swing into it to kind of clear it. However, if he's got this active Hannibal on the board that hasn't really been cleared up in the early turns, it creates a lot of threat where that Mancheri can't just go +1, so to say. As for the rest of his ratios, I think we were pretty happy at the end of the day with these ratios, just figuring out how many of the portraits that we want to be running at the top end, as well as the Hell's Judgment, which is a really strong card in the late game. It honestly one of the best events for purple that has been printed. And when people are going for game versus him, they really have to think, does he have 2 Blast Breath? Does he have no events at all? Does he have Hell's Judgment? And it makes their math completely awkward, to be honest.
That's it. And like just going back to the double Magellan turn, this is a deck that, yes, it does run the 9-cost Kaidos, but that's very much like not a mid-game threat for him. That's usually a finisher. He's looking at stabilizing in that early game, like, trying to get the kid on board, turn, when you get the 10 Don turn, trying to get at least 1, if not 2 Magellans down to really hit those yellow players, and really just try and, create that pressure. Ultimately, he did fall to Nicholas on Anel, which, again, could be for a number of reasons. There is a lot of kind of mid-range threats here, but maybe just not quite seeing enough. We'll have to really clarify how those games went for him. But a super interesting list. Had a really big chat to him, actually. Of all the people I spoke to, Joe was the one I wanted to talk to the most, just around his idea with this Purple Luffy deck and how he really approached the meta. I guess we were on two kind of different sides of the coin. I actually can't stand the 5-cost Magellan card. Oh man, I see you grimacing hard there, Elliot. But I'm coming in hot with a hot take. Like, I love the ultra aggressive ramp, try and get the Kaido, try and get the 7-cost kid down, establish big threats, and just maintain presence that way. But he's taken it a different way, and he's got the results to prove it. So maybe I'll have to look at putting that Magellan back in. But what we'll do now, we're going to go to the final, not just the finalist, but the winner. Nicholas with his Anel deck. Now we can see this is already different to Maverick's list. We can see There are only 2 Anels here, only 2 Sanjis. We've got 2 Brulés. So it's interesting, isn't it? Like, you think by cutting the blockers, the Sanji, as well as the Brule, you'd be more aggressive. But then you see less Enel and more defensive cards in terms of the L Thor. What's your take on this, Elliot?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Nicholas is a really strong player from the trade binder local. I've heard really good things about him and how strong that he is on this NL. So, yeah, overall, he has an interesting split. I think this is a very mixed build. I feel Maverick's build was more looking at that pure aggression kind of build. Whereas this one, you can see more of a split between 2 NL and the 2 Big Mom. This is super important for a lot of matchups, as if you have both of them, you kind of have a little bit of a little bit more of a decision that you can do on that 7 Don turn. And it also really makes an impact when you're versing someone who you know has both. You have to always be worried about them dropping one or another, and always have to be on your toes about, can I take the 7K swing? Do I have the removal for the NL? Or is this Charlotte Linlin going to result in them getting another life? Or am I going to have to trash my own life? Another one that's quite interesting about this list, and a card that I quite like personally, is the El Thor. A lot of the time, we can see people cut this card. However, if your opponent does have that 1 Donner, it always makes your math insanely difficult versus NL. Like if you're going for game and they're going to have three cards in hand on their last life, you're going to have to hit for over 13K just to make sure that you get that absolute victory and that you're playing around El Thor and double 2K.
Absolutely, and it's just unbelievable. And even just the threat of it can really throw the combat math and force the opponent to go a lot more defensive. So he ends up taking it out. Congratulations again to Nick. Some incredible play from a lot of the players up in Queensland. I feel that of all the states, already throwing the statement out there, we really do represent when it comes to kind of top cuts at these events. And I don't know, like seeing a good spread of kind of results here. Good to see a couple of rogue decks to perform extremely well as well at this Good Game Strathpine tournament. Thanks again to Floyd for hosting this, who really has. I know he got a bit late onto the One Piece bandwagon, wasn't quite there at the beginning, but the love he's shown for the community has been absolutely fantastic, and hopefully a sign of many more things to come. That kind of serves as a really great transition into our next segment, and that is Nationals. When's that coming, Elliot?
Awesome. So that's going to be in 2 weekends' time. The first side event will be on the Friday, the Australia Day, in Melbourne, Australia. And we will have the main event kind of on that Saturday and Sunday as well. And yeah, it's going to be biggest event yet by far. It's insane that our previous biggest events were kind of around that 340 mark, I believe. And having a wait list of over 100 and already having a cap of 512, I believe it is, tickets. It's literally just super massive for us Australians. I know that a lot of the other regions, they have even bigger caps of 1,000, 1,500, and they were sold out even quicker. I think I heard something about the European cap of 1,500 being sold out in 15 minutes, which is just absolutely bonkers in my mind.
Absolutely. I mean, it's nothing but great for the game. It's you know that these event organisers are going to look at that and they're going to plan that in their future proceedings. Bigger venues, hopefully more support from Bandai to keep this game growing. And even now, running into a lot of players who, I haven't seen around Brisbane. I don't get a chance to make it Southside very often. And, we just get chatting, and you can see the genuine disappointment when it's like, oh, you're going down to Nationals, and the fact that it's like, oh, no, I missed out on a ticket, I'm on the waiting list, we'll see what happens. And even now, it's obviously a bit too late for that now, unless they can arrange travel and accommodation in 2 weeks. A lot of people have kind of accepted that this event isn't going to be for them this year. But it's unbelievable. The pricing looks unreal. And I know you're going, so tell us, how's just in, I guess, a couple of minutes, how's all your prep been going? I guess preparing for it mentally, your practice matchups, how's it all going?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, feeling super good about the preparation for myself. I am super blessed to have really good players around me. First locals that I went to ended up being run by someone who has now won 3 serials himself. Goes by the name Braden. You might have heard of him. And yeah, ever since then, yeah, the rest of the scene has just
Nice.
grown super strong. Have some really good testing partners, as we were talking about before. We have Joe, we have Stephen, Devel, Mitch Wood, who's also just been on that, literally on that ninth place a couple of times. Super strong player. And countless others for practice that are just super strong and helping a lot for my prep. And it's, yeah, on top of that, the other thing that's been really good for my preparation, just to fill in a bit of time, um, there's a couple of ranked queues that have been released in the last couple of weeks. And I'm really finding that the average player on there is quite strong compared to your average sim player who may be just trying out the deck for the first time. Just having that extra level of seriousness. Of course, as you climb the ELO ladder, you tend to verse people who have like a positive, pretty high win rates, and you really get to have that experience of what it's going to be like on the mid to top tables at a national level.
Absolutely. I haven't participated in these queues, but I'm watching Eggman stream a bit of it, and it looks incredibly good. So it's like a bot. I believe it's a bot through Discord, and it matches you up there. You both accept it. You both report the result, and then it just does like an MMR kind of rating that you see through. It's not like ELO. I can't remember how exactly it's calculated, but it's really impressive to see. And that's obviously really kind of helped your training. Do you still feel, I guess, nervous? I mean, you've obviously topped so many events. Is this just another event for you, or do you feel extra pressure?
I definitely feel extra pressure. However, my main understanding when it comes to these events is sometimes there are things completely out of your control. I feel like I have events where I'm super dialed in and super like on point where I don't have the results that I feel like I should. I also have other events where I feel I don't play 100% perfect and I kind of just coast by. I get lucky, my opponents brick, I get good matchups, things like this. So overall, I'm just hoping that my luck can be enough and that I can, just consistently go forward with my game plan in every single game. Overall, though, based on like the results from like testing and from rank queues and stuff like this, I am quite confident. I think the main curveball that will really be thrown in, as always in the Oceanic region, is just the Singaporean players coming in from their region. Now they kind of have a bit of a backwards look on the meta, and they have a little bit more experience with the meta. High level Sakazuki mirrors and things like this. So it'll be interesting to see how I fare versus these players and how my preparation goes versus that extremely elite level in the world.
It's okay. Just hope they get high rolled by Bello Betty early and go into the losers bracket. I mean, that's what we can hope for, right? But no, it's going to be insane. I can't make the trip down due to some work commitments, but you'll be hearing me commentate that live with the stream, hopefully going according to plan. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing Elliot on these top tables, as well as all the players of Australia, really, because it's going to be an incredible tournament. And I guess we really are in a lucky period with One Piece doing so well, and I feel Bandai have really hit it out of the park with this game. as well. So we really are kind of blessed in this situation where even at a loss, you can always look back and think, you know what, sometimes I couldn't do anything there. You know, yellow high rolls the triggers, but even losses I'm feeling now, it's like maybe I could have sequenced that differently. Maybe I could have done that. And that's what I know really helps me grow as a player, and certainly a lot of others as well. So look, before we close it out, I believe you got a fun little game for me, Elliot. What do you got in store for me?
Yep, absolutely. So this will just be one. It'll be the buy, sell, hold. I'm just gonna quickly fire off some ones to Braden. He doesn't know what these are, but this will just be kind of based off his extensive knowledge on which cards that you should buy, sell, or hold. What's looking good and what's looking like the trends and the future predictions. So I'll just start off with this one. I've got a nice spread, so hopefully this will give kind of a lot of information to everyone watching. But my three cards are going to be one, the OP1 Law Leader, red green. It's going to be two, the Manga Soga King, and three is going to be the Rebecca Altard from OP5. Go.
All right, I know the sell is definitely going to be Rebecca. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Now, are we talking pre-errata Law Leader or post-errata?
We'll go off the TCG player, which I don't think kind of depicts this. But for the sake of this, we'll just go over the post errata.
We'll go post-errata. Okay, in that case, I am definitely going to be... I would be buying any Margo Soga Kings, and I would be holding the Law Leaders at this point, and I'll talk you through each of them. Now, snap one for me was your Rebecca alternate art blocker from OP05. I don't have the sales data to back it up. This is all on the fly, so I'm just going top of my memory here. I think Rebecca is a dangerous card. I think that going forward, it's going to be too difficult for Bandai to power creep this card because of the value that it provides us. And Gecko Moria and OP06 has already shown this. You go to One Piece top decks and you look at those Sakazuki and Gecko Moria decks, and you might think, oh, they're two different archetypes, Braden. Two different leaders, but you go and look at the core guts of them, and they are running the Gecko Moria, Rebecca, Hina combo. I think that it just provides way too much value, and I think it's one that I would certainly be offloading, not looking at holding. We certainly saw the volatility when Ninebeard was banned and how quickly a lot of those Whitebeard cards dropped. Same with Radical Beam. You know, you could pick up playsets for probably $2 after that initial restricted list came out for Radbeam. I can't remember if it was banned or restricted. So you always see that, and I just think... I never thought Edward Newgate 9 cost was too bad, but I think that Rebecca has certainly warped the format a little bit. There's a reason you're seeing Hina cost as much as she does, and it's all because of that Rebecca. Whether they restrict her in the future, I think that's probably the go going forward. That way there's a lot more variance in games, and you can't just rely on, 8 Don, okay, Rebecca, Hina, Lucci, let's just clear this out. So that would be my goal for sell. Now, the Manga Soga King, I've put... What did I say for that? Did I say... I would have said buy. I did say buy, yep. There is a lot of buyouts happening for a lot of alt-art leaders as well as mangas. And mangas, honestly, the pull rates on them is just so low. I'm going to put an asterisk on set 4. I think, in my experience, Sabo was a lot easier to open. I just think that, you know, yes, it is Soga King, but it is a straw hat. It is one of the first straw hats that we've had. While it may not be a main one, it is still a mainstay, and at its price that it's been hovering around, I think that was way too low. I would happily buy them up. They have certainly lifted, and I would still happily buy them at the price they are now, especially given the look at how some of these sets, particularly the Shanks Ace, have been projecting. Now, Law, I think, is absolutely going to be a hold for me, and the reason for that is Law is 100% my favourite leader. It won me the online Treasure Cup. It is an incredible leader that I love playing. The issue is one particular card, and that card is Rob Lucci, and it has really kind of hampered the deck. You mentioned earlier, Elliot, that it was seeing play in the Eastern meta at the very beginning before being forced out, before these Sakazukis came in. I just don't think it's in a great spot, but I also think that we're a couple more searches, a couple more archetypes away. You know, eventually they're going to print some great 3-cost supernovas that really help support the deck. And I think you'll see it roaring back. So much so that I just sent away one of my pre-errata lore leaders just to get graded, because I thought, well, why would I sell it when it's not seeing play? The turnaround's 3 months. I know it's not going to see play in 3 months. The price of some of these leaders, I saw one go on auction for about $675 for a pre-errata lore leader. That's just insane. And a lot of these OP1, to a smaller degree, OP2 leaders are now starting to show that variance. A lot of people are coming in trying to buy out, get ahead, be it for master sets or for pure speculation. So I guess that's where I sit on them. Hopefully that kind of helped a lot of the viewers out there with some kind of thoughts financially. And how I kind of look at cards as well. But no, they were actually 3 really great cards, Elliot. Before we wrap it up, man, any closing statements, any shout-outs you want to make?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, shout out to everyone who I've been practicing with for the last couple of months, my friends and the wonderful people at Locals. Honestly, the community for One Piece is like, it's insane. I just love going to Locals. Everyone's super friendly, especially around these like Brisbane Locals. And yeah, just wanted to shout out my Patreon as well. I started coaching and Patreon recently, so if anyone wants to check those ones out. Also, if you just want to message me, like if you have any questions about any decks or anything, you know, I'm pretty. I just like helping people out. If you just want some quick advice, feel free to chuck me messages. You know, Discord or Facebook or anything like that. And yeah, shout out to the best Locals runner in the Greater Brisbane area, Braden. Thank you for having me along. And Braden has been really huge in my growth in One Piece, just because he's been such a good LGS owner, and he's always been able to prioritize the people who come along and really build a huge community in the North Brisbane area. And yeah, I appreciate it more than he knows. So yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Elliot. Well, we hope to hear from you soon. We know Nationals obviously coming up. We've got the next big webcam event happening next weekend. I aim to have another episode out probably Sunday night or Monday the following week. Just dealing with that, and then my 4th episode will be after Nats, after all my commentary and giving my kind of thoughts on it. But once again, the Elliot Charters, thank you so much for joining us, a man that really kind of doesn't need an introduction. Feel free to check out that Patreon. He does have some incredible takes, and you wouldn't have 5 serials, you know, if they weren't incredible. So once again, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, any questions you have, feel free to drop them in the comments. As always, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.